Ladies and gentlemen, Raila lost the seat. That is the AUC seat. And the people have almost entirely shifted blame to William Ruto. But the fact is, Raila Odinga being the candidate himself, he also had his own problems or maybe mistakes that I'm going to highlight on this video here today. But before I do so, if this is the first time currently you are watching our videos, please make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment, because that is the best support you can always give this channel. And for those kindly who are supporting my channel, I want to thank you so much. My number is always here. You can always come through whenever you can. Thank you so much, Petronilla, for coming through for this channel. Now, let me tell you what is happening. Raila Odinga being the candidate, there are some things he was able to observe, but probably saw and ignored. The first one is this: the signs from the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs popularized their demonstrations across the country and across the world. That was a very strong strength. That was a serious strength of the Gen Zs that Raila Odinga could not have ignored. What do I mean by that? He was supposed to know that if you mess up with these people, they'll depopularize you seriously. They'll make you unpopular. But Raila Odinga took it like these are children who are playing with social media. And when they were calling for demonstrations, actually were calling for change in governance in this country, Raila Odinga ignored them, went ahead to bring his people to government, and as a result, they hated him. Then Raila Odinga, William Ruto thought that probably they will do nothing. But I'm telling you, one of the things that really made people to vote against Raila Odinga, it is the campaigning that was done by the youths of this country against Raila Odinga. People are telling the presidents, emailing them, calling them that please elect the person from Djibouti. That's our candidate. And we reject Raila Odinga as a country. And I'm telling you, some of these presidents could have taken it for granted. Others took it serious because they saw what was happening in Kenya. Others were waiting for an excuse just to also abide to what Kenyans were saying. And when William Ruto did some few mistakes, so they eventually decided to make the decision and say, you are voting against Raila Odinga. So the first mistake Raila Odinga did is to ignore the power of the youths of this country. And that is purely on him. Also, he couldn't have gone even for AU. Because when we had his demonstrations in the country, the first person who was killed were youths from Kisumu, from Maseno, from Kisii here, in Nairobi. Youths were shot. Even himself, his life was almost being taken away. And he did not fight for these people. He came lied to Kenyans that those who were killed on 25th June are going to be compensated. They were not compensated. And he thought youths had forgotten. So in a nutshell, all these things were seen by youths and used the campaign to Raila Odinga on the basis that he's not a good leader. He's selfish. Number two mistake that Raila Odinga did, it is to ignore the presence of Uhuru Kenyatta. Ladies and gentlemen, Uhuru Kenyatta was the immediate president of the Republic of Kenya before William Ruto. This person, he also moved across the continent, across the world, just like William Ruto, but of course William Ruto is more. He made friends all over. And even the 2 years he has been out of power, he has been moving to various parts of this African continent. He has been meeting presidents from all over. He has been doing what you call peace missions and even being maybe an overseer of elections. Like in South Africa was there, he was in Nigeria. Meaning that he has influence across the African continent. But in his campaign, Raila Odinga ignored the contribution that Uhuru Kenyatta can make to his campaign or even his election. As a result, we realize that now Raila Odinga's brother are now blaming Uhuru Kenyatta that he decampaigned Raila Odinga. Yet, Uhuru Kenyatta, I'm sure, did not close doors for Raila Odinga. If Raila Odinga needed him, probably could have come through for him because he was also there when he needed allies back in 2018. So the second mistake he did, it is to ignore the presence of Uhuru Kenyatta. The third mistake he did, despite having declared for that seat, he still watched Uhuru Kenyatta cry. We know there was this issue of funding of the former president's office. Funding stopped. until William Ruto had to call Uhuru Kenyatta himself. No, when these things are happening, Uhuru Kenyatta has friends all over Africa who are presidents. Eventually, they'll sit back and ask themselves, wait, you mean this is happening to Uhuru Kenyatta? This person is not good. Eventually, that is how some presidents eventually rejected Raila Amolo Odinga, because it was brought by William Ruto. And that was terrible. So therefore, we have to admit here today that Uhuru Kenyatta's role was underrated by Raila Amolo Odinga. I'm sure Raila Amolo Odinga would have given Uhuru Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta could have given Raila Amolo Odinga not at least 10 presidents, even some of them from West Africa. Because if you sit down, for instance, right here, they are saying even Tanzanian president never voted for Raila Amolo Odinga. If you come to East Africa here, between William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, who is liked more by this president? It's Uhuru Kenyatta. We saw Magufuli in Kenya bringing AUC to Uhuru Kenyatta. We saw Mama Suluhu welcoming Uhuru Kenyatta now and then. We saw Uhuru Kenyatta and Kagame, Uhuru Kenyatta and all these other presidents. They have been close. So the first thing Raila could have done is to bring on Uhuru Kenyatta, because he knows better than Ruto on how to make our international relationships work. Mistake number 4, that Raila Amolo Odinga did, that he will regret forever. It is the fact that he did not stop the abductions through President William Ruto. We have to admit that the Kenyans have been complaining of the new monster in town: abductions and then killings. People will ask themselves, like one time I saw a journalist from South Africa asking, if Raila Amolo Odinga cannot stop the abductions and killings in Kenya, how is it possible that he's going to stop other parts, such things from happening in other parts of Kenya, of the African continent? It was a pertinent question that is always asked in other people's minds, like presidents. They might not discuss with him, but the fact remains that how do you campaign and promise peace in other countries, like while in your country there's injustice against human rights? The president is allowing abductions and killings of youths to happen in this country. People get abducted by the police. Eventually they go and die, found dead in mortuaries. How do you answer such? What do you tell the world? And then you bring Raila Amolo Odinga on board. That couldn't have worked. So the killings and abductions gave a different picture. Some of these presidents who could not prefer, especially those from the south. Those from the south. So in a nutshell, we have to admit here today that that was a grievous mistake that Raila could have stopped and then at least gained some momentum from the African people, from the Kenyan people. From the Kenyan people. Another mistake Raila Amolo Odinga did is this: to act selfish. He's old, 80 years plus, but he feels still is the one. There are these tendencies where somehow Kenyan leaders feel that they deserve certain positions simply because they are what you call old, or they have been vying for long, or they have more experience. You cannot be too good forever. If you ask me today, Raila could have been a better president back in 2013. But in 2022, probably we were wrong, because maybe we only had him as an option because Ruto wasn't an option as such. Or probably when Ruto was better than him now. So the fact remains that as we speak here today, Raila Amolo Odinga decided to ignore his age, which could have been a factor, because we saw him struggle, walk fast, try to look fit, dancing, but the fact remains he's old. And that seat is not a seat where you sit and just sit in an office. Meetings, chairing meetings, moving from country to country, doing this and that, making speeches right, left and center. It is not easy. Raila could have been overwhelmed, and he's old, probably couldn't even finish for the 4 years while he's still healthy. I don't know what's your take as far as Raila Amolo Odinga's mistakes are concerned, but please let me see in the comment section what you think Raila Amolo Odinga made as the biggest mistake.